Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite warlock here, practicing necromancer. And today I want to bring a topic that a lot of individuals would never do. And that is coming forth to say that you need to take a time in a moment to thank those who have gotten you where you are today. Now, what do I mean by that? If you look over the years, especially when you've been a practitioner for 10 years, 20 years, or in, say, for example, my case, over 30 years of practicing various different types of religious practices and that of their philosophies on a full-time basis, then you've come across elders, you've come across tatas and paleros, you've come across bokors, you've come across caplatas and membos and hungans, babalawi even. You've come across high priests if you're into Satanism and Wicca and paganism. You've come across shamans, gurus, and it doesn't matter what physical construct, religious speaking or philosophical speaking, that you've been a practitioner of. You look at your elders and you got to say thank you. You got to give that thank you to them, because without their guidance, without their help, you wouldn't be where you are today. Okay? In some cases, like Haitian Voodoo or another African Caribbean tradition, you may get called forth by a spirit, like, say, Oya, you know, or Chango, for an example, you know, in the Caribbean traditions of Santeria and Pedo. You may even get called in by, say, Papa Gedi or Baron Simbi, or Keflu in Haitian Voodoo. You know, hell, even a demon such as Asmodeus, you know, Astarte, Astaroth, Beelzebub, you know, even Paimon or Belial may even call you forth and say, hey, I've been watching you for a while. I want to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, look at this. Why don't you get into this particular practice? Well, guess what? It's an honor when they do that. Those of you who have been a long time, follower of my work, you've known that I've spoken on the fact that when I was 5 years old, I was introduced to Lucifer. He appeared to me. Okay. And again, when I was 11, I ended up getting into sorcery and witchcraft on a full-time basis. And I started working with beings like Belial and that of Zaniel, the teacher of witchcraft. Okay. Now, what's interesting to note is that these spirits will tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, I want you in this particular religion. Did you think it was just the white light practices where these gods or these angels will tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, I'm your guardian angel, or hey, I'm God, I'm watching over you, use my name and everything will tremble? No, that's a load of horseshit right there. If a spirit actually comes to you and taps you on the shoulder, it's an honor and it's a privilege. It means that they not only trust you, but that they are willing to work with you. That is a great honor. In my personal experience, when I got into Haitian Voodoo, I reached out to a lot of different practitioners, and I reached out to a lot of different groups on social media to try to find a teacher, to find a guide. And I was denied because of my race, because I wasn't black. And Haitian Voodoo is considered to be a black practice. But what a lot of these practitioners don't realize is that the Loa have reached out and expanded into other classes and creeds, such as African Caribbean traditions, the Cubans practice, South America. Even here in America, you have different creeds and races that practice voodoo faithfully. Okay. And trust me, when you are considered to be an outsider in a community, realizing that, you're not going to get any support from them, you tend to reach out to the spirits. And it's like, hey, I've been trying to find a teacher. Will you open the doors for me to find a teacher, to find a an educator, a guide, even somebody who will take me underneath their wing as an apprentice? Well, guess what? This is a pathway that you as a practitioner can go. And in this case, it was funny because I was studying necromancy when I was going through multiple religions and regions of the world, looking at various different aspects of necromancy, and ended up in Slavic witchcraft. You know, and it was interesting because up until that point, I didn't realize that voodoo was practiced in Slavic culture. You know, you hear, as a brua or bruo who practices brujeria practices or Santeria, pedo, mayambi, or monte type practices. You hear how voodoo is intermingled with these cultures, along with the church and all that, but you never suspect Slavic or Russian witchcraft being associated with African based cultures. So when Baron Sem- when Papa Gedi reached out to me personally, I didn't know who the hell he was. I was used to the Rada spirits. I was used to the Petro spirits. I never thought about getting into the Gedi family of Loa. Well, guess what? Here is the elder who rules over the Gedi family reaching out to me personally. So this is a way for you to be tapped on the shoulder, but it is also a way for you to realize, hey, what you asked for and what you petitioned for years prior has come to fruition. Okay. So it is interesting how both spirits, be it ancestral spirits or that of a religious, perspective of Orisha or Loa, or even demonic, angelic, would reach out to you and say, hey, I'm willing to work with you. I'm willing to guide you, teach you. And it's interesting because here you are years down the road and you got to look back and go, wow, I've had all these teachers, all these guides. And without them, I would not be the practitioner that I am today. Okay. I was getting cleaned up because I'm getting ready to go to out for a family, dinner with my son and his grandparents. And it was interesting because I was listening to just a lot of different videos. I started out with stuff on music, and went into different other things such as Voodoo and Santeria, because I listen to a lot of these videos. I love listening to other practitioners and how they practice, what they think. You can actually learn from them as well. And one of the videos that came up was Bokor Leonard Elmera. And I've spoken on him before. Yeah, I got a lot of respect for this man. He's a hard worker. He knows his stuff, and he's always making a splash. You know, I'm not the kind of guy that likes making a splash, but you got to give the man his due. And a lot of the things he says is kind of iffy, but it turns out a lot of that is just him joking around. But when he does speak on his religion and he is serious about it, you can learn from him. And one of the things that he was speaking of in this particular video is working with a specific Loa of Haitian voodoo. And he was telling a story about how he was approached by somebody, and this individual specifically asked him about this spirit and told him, this is my experience with this particular spirit. And he ended up getting what he asked for, but at a cost. And I had to sit there and I'm thinking to myself while I'm taking the shower here, and it's like, what he's saying in this video is accurate. Because of the fact I look back at my career as an occultist, as a Satanist, as a practitioner of both European and African Caribbean based religions. I can tell you that there are spirits out there that are tricksters. I mean, look at Loki in Norse mythology, or that of Mephistopheles and Mesopotamian, just to name a couple. And it's like you really got to be specific with your wording. And I started thinking about this, and it's like, uh, how many spirits have told me that when you are making a pact, you got to be specific with what you are expecting to get out of it, but also what you are willing to do in exchange for it. And it's like, he is speaking truth here, because it is an actual fact. Because if you don't place your words specifically, these spirits can twist them into an alternative version of what you are petitioning for. For an example, if in this case the guy was asking to become rich, how did he get his money? It was an inheritance. His family died so that he could become rich. This is what I'm talking about. This is what Bokor Leonard Elmera was talking about in this particular video. So when you think about all those people that have influenced your career, in my career as a practitioner of Satanism, for an example, I got to say, Anton Szandor LaVey was a big influence in my life as a practitioner of Satanism. Old school Satanism, not this new age bullshit that's out there, And then when I got into theistic and spiritual Satanism, I came across Alistair Knott, and I was reading his work, and it just spoke to me. It was bam, in your face. I related to it. I understood it because of that firm foundation of my upbringing in Satanism and satanic practices. And it was like, wow, I understand this. So when you think about individuals who have had an impact, you got to give it up for them. You got to say, hey, thank you for being such good role models for me. Now, when it came to Reverend Cesar 999's work, I got into it a little bit, and I kind of related to it as a foot soldier, if you will, as a priest and a minister, of satanic practices. But here it is. Being that kind of rebel of what he was suggesting preparing for, that did not relate or sit well with me. But I understood where he was coming from, where there was a lot of turmoil in the communities. So I did understand that, and having bodyguards, having the Black Guard, having, priesthoods that had specific roles for waging war, or, that of religious public appearances and ritualized works. You got all this stuff in it, and this really goes back throughout history. from various different religious perspectives. The Shem priesthood, the Hashishin, they all had ranks and titles within their priesthoods. I mean, even the Knights of Templar were holy monks. And it's like, wow, this stuff has been around for a very, very long time, long before the JCI was even a conception in its mama's womb. So there's a lot of things that play into effect in your career that you got to sit there and reflect upon. And when you reflect on this, you look at these individuals who have had a positive influence in your life. You know, I've I've looked back at the last decade and I've watched so many aspiring young practitioners come up in the community only to just vanish. You know, somebody who claimed to have been a high priest even in a Luciferian sect suddenly get up and disappear. Okay. I've watched these individuals. I've even had people come to me and use things that they found on the net to try to get my attention. To say, hey, this is what's going on with this guy. You might want to pay attention. Well, guess what? A lot of people don't think about the actions of these individuals that do that. But in some cases, it does stick with you. But at the same time, it's like, hey, he did get my attention. We did talk. He put forth his case, and it turned out to be accurate. It, and it's like, okay, you got to thank this individual for doing that. So even if you're looking at your teachers, you're looking at your guides, your mentors, your elders in the community, no matter what religion you're in, you got to look back and say thank you, because you would not be where you are right now without their guidance, without their hand sitting there going, hey, have you thought about this? I think you should get into this because you're a great researcher. You dedicate your time in research, in study. You might benefit from jumping into, say, this particular pantheon or tower, if you will. You know, you get into this type of work, reach out to so and so and say, hey, I was recommended to you because of this reason. I've got two people sitting there saying, hey, you may fit in here. This may benefit you in the long run. Guess what? It did benefit me in the long run. I got to say thank you to my elders who recommended this to me. So it is not just one type of religion. It is a lot of different religions. And if you actually go back through history and see how these religions not only intermingled, but how they inspired your growth in the occult, into, say, black magic, or even white light practices such as Wiccan and paganism. Guess what? Either way, those that came before have had a positive influence in your life. But what about those individuals that lead you down a negative road? Okay. What about these individuals that lead you down this road? Well, guess what? Did you learn something from it? Did you learn not something that you should not do? Okay. Look at it from this perspective. If somebody told you to go into a cemetery with a hoodie, gloves on, and tear off, bones from a cemetery to take to a practitioner that would do work for you, you're basically breaking, I don't know how many religion, laws, from violation of a corpse, to trespassing, to vandalism, to grave robbing, and so forth. Don't even get me started on aiding and abetting a known fugitive. Okay, there was one on I believe it was called the Skeleton Files, just out of an example. And this woman came from Cuba, and she ended up She was in Tupelo, Mayumbi, hardcore practitioner, well known in the communities and that she served in. And she had these people go to graveyards and steal bones and everything. And I think the last one was in, I want to say New York, if I remember correctly. It was episode 11, if I remember correctly, in that TV series. Very good TV series if you're a necromancer, because you're dealing with anthropology, you're dealing with thanatology, you're dealing with medical practices that go along with necromantic practices. Even the Blood Sorcery Bible, Volume 1 and 2, put forth by Cagliostro the Necromancer, puts forth medical procedures and techniques that help you as strengthen your body. And it's interesting because of the fact that in this particular episode, this woman sent these people out for specific things, and they did it, and it was called a flash snatch and grab, basically. And what happened is her Botanica got raided by the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And it was interesting because of the fact that when you think about all the things that she had done by grinding up human bones, having people drink them, um, in their elixirs and potions, to utilizing the bones in a religious perspective in a basement of a botanica, you know, can you see where somebody like this would bring a negative outlook on a particular religious perspective? I mean, you could see the same thing with the Hebraic system, such as the Catholics. Look at the monastery school that was up in Canada, or is in Canada, I should say. I believe it was in Quebec, Quebec area, where they found about, what was there, like 100 to 300 indigenous people's corpses and remains buried underneath the courtyard of this foundation and establishment. You know what I'm saying? You look at how many corpses and bodies that they've walked over, slaughtered and massacred over the centuries to form this massive organization of Catholicdom. Don't even get me started on the Eastern and Western philosophies of denominations that are out there. Just because you have bad apples in a community does not make that religion bad. You got to respect the religion. Just don't trust the people. That's why I always tell you guys, when you speak on a topic, back it up with numerous sources and always make yourself available to the public. Otherwise, you'd end up like Eric Wedding having his channel, shut down on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Okay. Now he has a whole nother channel, but months down the road. But still, you see the point, because it only takes one nut job to steer you down a desolate road. This is why it's good to know what you're speaking on, to have a firm foundation. And when you find a good teacher, you find good elders, and you find great spirits who will not steer you down the road, you're going to find that you're going to be plentiful in your journey. I mean, I look at my journey this year alone. I've had five clients paying me anywhere from 150 for a consultation to $300 per write to 900 for a bundle. Okay. So, and this is because my name has gotten around, and I got to look at this and say, hey, I got to look at my patrons and my patronesses and say, without you, I wouldn't be the practitioner of baneful magic that I am today. In fact, I wouldn't be as knowledgeable today if it wasn't for them, if it wasn't for my elders and my teachers, my guides. I would not be where I'm at, who taught me to keep my nose clean, who taught me to delve into the work. Even Robert Greene, in his book 48 Laws of Power, says, win by action, not by arguing. Okay? Sun Tzu in The Art of War flat out tells you if you've already won if you have, and I quote, studied your opponent's strengths and weaknesses instead of just blindly charging in. If you charge in, you're going to die quickly. It doesn't matter if you're in the martial arts, the military, the police, it does not matter. You get into a gang, if you don't know what you're doing, you die young. I ain't sure they call that honorable, but you know what? That's stupidity. It is better to do the work to master the work. You have to master yourself to master the world. Grow through works. Even the Bible says, and I quote in Corinthians, show me your dead works and I will show you my good works. Interesting how so many religions, so many philosophies have that one saying, going as far back as Stoicism. But you got to be mindful of those who have walked the path with you, not just before you. Because without them, you would not be where you're at today. Shadow Man, the Black Tower, God King Cthulhu. Welcome to the channel, guys. So, yeah. So I was thinking about this while I was taking a shower and I was listening to Bokor Leonard Elmera on this. And it's like, yeah, you can't believe how many people get into these religions. They read a book and they think, I'm a master of darkness. I'm a lord of darkness. They take on the demons' names. They think that they can marry a succubus or whatever. It's like, this is D&D all over again. This is going back to the 1980s, early 90s through the Satanic Panic. This is going all the way back to the stupidity of the witch trials and the burning times. When are you guys going to learn to do your work? Study, learn about a religion, get that firm foundation. Learn your rights within these particular said religions. And then apply it to your life. But you got to remember that you're not walking alone. You have people that teach you and guide you. You have spirits that will guide you and teach you and educate you. And if you don't listen to those spirits, they'll whoop your ass. The teachers, they just won't teach you until you're ready to learn. Plain and simple. All right. With that said, I got to get going, but I wanted to put my 2 cents in on this. It felt right, and I think it's important for people to hear that. I want to thank the Black Tower for jumping on here, even if it is for a few minutes, brother. Shadow Man, same thing with you. And sorry, I'm just reading what Shadow Man had posted. Okay, welcome back. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize how many types of entities are out there. Shadow Man, they really don't. Yeah, like you, I'm basically European and native, so I'm kind of like a mutt, if you will. you know, I'm a mutt literally because I'm a half breed. You know, because I'm Native American on my dad's side and I'm European on my mother's side. So it's, you know, it's kind of funny how that kind of works out. But I hear you there. All right. But anyways, Keep those horns up, keep putting in the work, applying yourself, and just remember those two key rules. Whatever you practice, whatever you preach on, put forth the resources, numerous resources, and always make yourself available to the public. All right? All righty. Have a good night, and until next time.